Welcome back. General Michael Flynn speaking out, the former national security advisor slamming the federal judge over recommending the appeals court to reconsider dropping the case against him. Flynn says the judge is hijacking the criminal prosecution for his own purposes, and the recommendation would unfairly prolong the legal battle in his case. Joining me right now is investigative journalist, Fox News contributor, and the author of Fallout, John Solomon. Congrats on the new book, John. Great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. The co-author of this new book, Fallout. I want to talk about it in a moment. But first, let me get your take on what's happening with General Flynn.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary to see a judge act as an interested party in a case. There's supposed to be neutral arbiters that, sit between the opposing parties. In this case, there are no longer opposing parties. The Barr Justice Department and the Flynn defense agree that he was wrong, that this was an inappropriate prosecution, that that Brady material, exculpatory evidence of innocence was withheld, and they've gone jointly to the court. The normal rule of the court is dismiss the case. He's been told once by the appeals court to dismiss the case. He's fishing around for another panel to do so. At the end of the day, Judge Sullivan's going to lose this case, and the only question is, how long can he drag it out? And we'll find out pretty quickly from the appeals court.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, this man was treated so unfairly, and there is so much crime that now we have officially uncovered, and the other side still will not stop. Will not acknowledge the wrongdoing over the origins of the Russia probe. AG Barr, about a month ago, told me that we're going to get developments from John Durham by Labor Day. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows was with me on Sunday, and I want you to hear what he told me on Sunday Morning Futures, that former federal officials should expect to hear from Durham fairly soon. Watch this. When are we going to hear from John Durham? Will there be indictments, sir?
Well, I think the American people expect indictments. I know I expect indictments. We know that they not only knew that there wasn't a case, but they continue to investigate and spy. And yes, I use the word spy on Trump campaign officials, and actually even doing things when this president was sworn in. You're going to see a couple of other documents come out in the coming days that will suggest that not only was the campaign spied on, but the FBI did not act appropriately as they were investigating. It's all starting to come unravel, and I tell you, it's time that people go to jail and people are indicted.
John, what are you expecting, and what about these new documents that Meadows just referred to?
Yeah, I expect the new documents to come out of the ODNI, the Director of National Intelligence. They're going to probably deal with Christopher Steele and other ways that the FBI was sort of intruding on the campaign, intruding on the transition. I expect them to be explosive, and I think they're going to change the narrative or add to the narrative a little bit in terms of what the FBI was doing and what the FBI knew when it started doing those sort of tactics. Similarly, I think Durham's, what the Chief of Staff Meadows just said is consistent with my reporting. I have seen significant and increasing activity of the Durham probe, investigators, lawyers, interviewing witnesses, securing documents, discussing cooperation deals. This is a case that feels like it's headed towards its first action on or around or just after Labor Day, right in that period, just before, just after. Now, things can slide, but right now the witnesses and people who are being interviewed sort of think it's on course for a Labor Day or just after time frame.
John, we know that there was real abuse at the FISA court. There's all this exculpatory evidence that the FBI did not show the FISA court when they tried to get the warrant and did get the warrant on Carter Page. We also know, as Lindsey Graham told us and declassified documents last week, that the FBI was told by the actual source, the Russian source, the sub-source who was the source of Christopher Steele. They were told that the dossier was garbage, that there was bar talk, and it wasn't true anyway. In early January, that was early January 2017, but the FBI kept going, even though it had all of this pushback saying it's not true. They kept renewing the warrant on Carter Page. What I want to know is, what about the informants? When are we going to hear about that? Because we know that there was already criminality. You've got the FBI agent who changed documents. That was the evidence. Right. He said that Carter Page wasn't a source of the CIA when, in fact, he was. What about the informants that happened before July 16? Do you think we're going to get to that? I'm talking about Joseph Mifsud, Alexander Downer, etc.
Stefan Halper, another very important figure. I think Stefan Halper is going to turn out to be as important as Christopher Steele when we're all done. I think there's a lot more to be learned about him. There's a lot more to be learned about who was the primary subsource. I'm very interested, as other people are now, in identifying who that primary subsource was. What was his relationship? Did he have any contacts with the U.S. government? Was he part of a larger network of people that might shine light on the intentions and motivations of this investigation? I think that the primary subsource of Christopher Steele, Stefan Halper, going to be two names we're going to hear a lot more about in August, September, and October.
And the book Fallout is the fallout of this as well as the Ukraine scandal, John.
Yeah, I think its most important revelation is why Hillary Clinton chose Russia as the attack line against Donald Trump in 2016. And what we found out is she did a poll in the summer of 15, and of all the liability she had in her political career, Benghazi, Whitewater, you can name all the scandals we could go through. The one that the poll showed posed the greatest threat impediment to her presidency or reach for the presidency was the fact that her and her husband had created the perception they traded on the Russia policy. They got rich. The Clinton cash Peter Schweitzer allegations. They were getting speech fees and foundation donations. She set out to neutralize that concern because that was her greatest threat in the poll, and that's what gave us the opposition research project. So this was, at its core, the Russia investigation was a cover-up of Hillary Clinton's past problems.
Unbelievable. Well, we know that she colluded with the Russians because she paid for the dossier. So basically what she did was she created this narrative that Trump did exactly what she had done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And don't leave Joe Biden out of this picture. He was in charge of a lot of these foreign policy things. And one of his key energy advisors was advising the Russian nuclear company on how to get a leg up on America, how to put the American uranium business out of business and give Russians a monopoly. That's a very important fact that comes out in the book that I think will be discussed as we head into the fall election.
Unbelievable, John. Biggest political scandal of our time. You've done great reporting as usual. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Soon. Thank you, John. John Solomon there. We'll take a break. When we come back, a lot more right here. Stay with us.